Hello and welcome to the Naked Gaming Podcast with me, Chris Barrow.
And me, Georgia Mills.
Still brand new, isn't it? You know, episode 2 of the podcast, but it still counts as new, don't you think?
Oh no, we're old hacks at this now. We're tired and jaded.
I haven't looked at the stats, but it was nice to be number 1 in the charts, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's so good. And
Amazing.
I can't believe we're rich now.
Oh, hooray! We're so rich we could buy all the games, which is handy for this podcast. We're going to look at gaming news. We're going to review some new releases as well.
And if you missed last week's episode, we discussed game release cycles and what it takes to get an idea from concept to console.
If you have a hit, if you make a first game and it hits, it's incredibly hard to recreate that in the second game.
So if you missed that, check it out first.
Now, this month, we're going to talk about a number of things, but there's one main theme. Georgia, take it away.
Oh, eSports. Have you heard of them? Because they are on the rise. We'll find out what it takes to make it as a professional gamer, not a job I realised existed.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
And on the other side of the coin, what about being a gaming commentator, or a caster, as they're apparently known?
I found this out quite recently because I watch quite a lot of games being streamed on Twitch and various platforms, and they always go, oh yeah, the casters are doing a great job, and I was sitting there going, what? But now I know. Caster equals commentator, so we're learning here.
Not cool slang for podcaster.
I know, which it should be, right? George is looking at whether esports can actually be called sports as well. And we're going to look back at the history of esport from its kind of very early days where prize pools were 10, 20, 30 quid, right to the modern era where we're looking at kind of millions of pounds worth of prizes that are up for grabs. We're going to talk about new releases as well. Georgia, what are you going to look at this week?
It's not super new, but it's one of the most recent games I played. It's called A Way Out.
Never heard of it, so look forward to that. I'm looking at Fallout 76, the online-only version of Fallout. Is it any good? Spoiler alert, no, it's not. But find out more later on. And why don't you tell us what we're going to do for Retro Revival this week?
Retro Revival, we mentioned it last week. It's the one and only Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. I'm
really excited for this one. And also, there's news coming in that Crash Team Racing is coming soon later on this year as well. So we'll probably end up doing that.
They've got our number, don't they? They know how to get us.
They know how it is. If you want to get us, though, you can get in touch. You can email gaming@nakedscientists.com. Let's start by looking at the news, and today we're focusing on eSports. To take the Wikipedia definition, eSports is a form of competition using video games, most commonly taking the form of organised multiplayer video game competitions between professional players and teams. Fortnite, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, they all have their own competitive matches, their competitive scenes. Hundreds of thousands of viewers watch matches from the comfort of their own homes as well. So Georgia has been looking at the history of eSports.
The first recorded esports event was for students and took place in Stanford University in America in 1972. And the game? Space War. It's one you might recognise if you saw a picture. You play as a ship, represented by a basic white triangle outline, and you fly around 2D space blasting asteroids. 8 years later, and we have the first large-scale competition, which was held by Atari for the game Space Invaders, and had over 10,000 participants. This popularity led to further tournaments being held and even televised in shows like Starcade throughout the 80s. To win most of these games, you simply had to beat the high score. But in the 90s, with the development of better head-to-head games like Street Fighter 2, this all started to change. People could now take each other on directly with multiplayer deathmatches, and several yearly fighting tournaments were set up that still continue to this day. But in the late 90s, we get the arrival of the internet. Now, loads of people could battle each other in massive online tournaments, with games like Quake and World of Warcraft. And then we get to the 2000s, where a new generation of consoles and better accessibility to the internet again increased the popularity of competitive gaming. Since then, esports have gotten bigger and bigger, especially in South Korea, generally considered the world capital of esports. Viewers flocked to tournaments in the thousands. In 2014, a League of Legends tournament attracted 40,000 fans to a stadium, one which had previously hosted a Football World Cup semi-final. While online views through services like Twitch reached tens of millions. Competitors in the tournaments are professional, full-time gamers who can earn plenty through prize money and increasing levels of sponsorship. and the prize money is staggering. In 2018, Epic Games announced they would provide $100 million of prize money for competitions of the game Fortnite. Previously, the biggest prize pot was a mere $38 million from Valve's Dota 2. In fact, the stakes are so high now that performance-enhancing drugs like Ritalin and Adderall have become common in competitions. So with this kind of cash and that many people involved, esports might be the most popular pastime that so many people have never heard of, and it's only set to get bigger.
Thanks, Georgia. So let's start off with an amateur gamer hoping to turn professional. Jake Cave is the manager of Northampton Town's eSports team. They compete in FIFA Pro Clubs, which is a specific kind of game mode. FIFA 19 is, of course, the latest in the football series, and hundreds of thousands of players compete online. Jake told me how exactly it works.
So I've been playing competitive pro clubs for around 3 years now. Started back end of 2015. Just wanted to take it to the next level, really. I've always been a fan of gaming, as most people are around my age. And yeah, just sort of wanted to take it to the next level, see how good I was and take it to the competitive level.
So how old are you now?
27.
So you've been started at 24-ish?
Yeah.
And pro clubs, for those who don't know, that's a FIFA kind of mode, shall we say?
Yeah. So you've got your different modes, like Ultimate Team. A lot of people know about sort of kick-off mode, where you just control one player and then you switch between the 11 players. This one's different in the fact that each player is controlled by someone else. So it's 11 versus 11.
11 real human
11
players.
real human players against 11 real human players. So it's a lot more realistic in terms of, there's a lot more teamwork involved than there would be normally.
And I suppose that means you have to get together in a group, or you can play online, obviously.
You can
but
play online,
you have to have quite a big team to play this.
Yeah,
thing.
well, at least 11. Obviously, people have commitments throughout the week with like work, family, social life, that sort of thing. So you sort of have a fairly bigger squad just in case anyone can't make
Subs-bench.
it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and if someone steps in and plays well, then they'll keep their spot.
Can I just ask you about the way, because obviously there are different positions, and therefore if you're better at playing defence, then you're going to play as a defender. Are there players who prefer playing on the left, and therefore you could say they're the equivalent of a left-footed kind of gamer?
Definitely.
Really?
Yeah, I've come across that a lot. Even myself, up until recently, would only play one side.
What's your position? Like,
I'm a striker.
Right, okay, yeah.
I used to only like playing on the left-hand side because it means I could cut in and finesse it around the keeper.
Yeah.
But with the way the game is now, sort of driven shots across goal are more effective, so I like playing on the right now.
Is there like a captain? Do you captain the team, would you say? Or you sort of manage and organise?
Yeah, sort of organising the sessions, getting the sign-ins in and making sure people are turning up on time and that sort of thing.
So you're like the coach, basically?
Pretty much, yeah.
Does it feel like you're kind of coaching the team?
Yeah, to a point. I have to sort of give instructions. I like my teams to play in a sort of certain way, sort of playing out from the back and playing through the phases. But yeah, I suppose you could call it that, yeah.
Do you do a pep talk at half-time?
Try to.
Because you've got to, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to, yeah.
It's competitive, it's no joke.
If they're doing well, then obviously you say, like, keep this going, let's not switch off here. But, if things aren't going so well, people need to be told.
There's prize money at stake as well occasionally. I know that this is quite a hard scene to make money in, particularly with pro clubs, because there's not as much money as, like you said, some of the other kind of genres, modes that are available. What kind of prize pools are we talking when you get to compete for actual money?
So we were going to go to a tournament in February where the prize fund, depending on the amount of teams, would have been up to $4,000.
It's a lot of money.
It is. For pro clubs, that's a ridiculous amount of money because it's not really that well known. It's not that well backed at the minute. So that would have been, a lot of money. And you split that between 11 people. It covers your weekend, it covers your expenses and a bit more. So
not at the point, obviously, where you could give up other stuff and take this seriously as a career. But I suppose that could be the aim eventually, to try
Definitely.
and take it.
And I think more and more football clubs now are recognising that. There's clubs all over the place. I think Man City, West Ham have got involved now. I've seen Ajax launch one last year. So it's not just in this country, it's across the globe as well that people are recognising it.
It's like Premier League clubs, like you say, have signed up gamers to play for their eSports teams, and then they go and compete, and people, thousands, hundreds of thousands, and sometimes even you can get towards the upper figures there. People are watching it online.
Yeah, and it's not just FIFA either. FIFA's probably not one of the most popular ones. When you've got like League of Legends, you get hundreds of thousands of people watching that, and the prize money at them can go up to like $500,000. It's just incredible how big this is and how big it can be, because it's still fairly new as well, and they're just talking about it recently about being potentially played at the Olympics, at the Asian Games. So there's huge potential for it.
So that's Jake Cave there from Northampton Town FC eSports. Good luck on the journey to turn pro. So let's take it on another step. We'll stay in Northamptonshire to look at what it takes to make it as a professional gamer and to run a team that plays all kinds of different games professionally. John Winkle is the managing editor of Epic.LAN. They put on esports events. John also manages players. And appropriately enough, as a lot of gamers communicate on Discord or Skype, we did the interview over the internet, and he's been involved in the competitive scene for more than 15 years.
Well, been running LAN parties since my university days. So back in 2003, was when I ran my first little event, Village Hall, as a typical LAN party was back then. Played games since as soon as I could have a computer, or as soon as I was allowed on. I think it was an Atari ST, for anybody who remembers those.
Yes,
way
classic.
back. And then first console was the Sega Master System. I've carried on playing since then. I'm no better than I was when I was a kid, but I prefer to sit back and organise things now instead of playing.
Now, for if people haven't heard of a LAN party before, LAN stands for Local Area Network,
Yes.
which means that you basically, in the old days, which I think you're allowed to say now, you'd sort of hook up your consoles together. You would literally sit in the same room as people and you would game against them. Nowadays, it's a little bit more complicated, of course, with the advent of the internet and things like that. You can do it on your own in your bedroom, which I sometimes feel is a bit less social, because it's nice to actually see people face to face, don't you think?
Exactly. I think people thought when the internet grew and capacities went up and up that LAN parties would die off. They're still growing even now, despite people having huge internet speeds in their house. Ours is growing year on year. The UK, the largest LAN party in the UK has about 3,000 people. Worldwide, there are LAN parties up to about 10,000 people.
Wow.
And exactly like you say, you can't substitute that playing face to face, seeing your opponents across the row, having a bit of banter between the opponents as well when you get a good kill. You don't get that when you're playing online from home.
What are some of the big games in the scene nowadays? Because people used to play things like GoldenEye, multiplayer, 4 controllers. That was almost seen as the definitive game that you had to play. But what is it nowadays that people like to play, either in a LAN setting or even just online?
From an esports point of view, your top titles at the moment, Counter-Strike is still going strong. It's now Counter-Strike Global Offensive, but that's had many iterations in the past. Dota 2, which is a MOBA game, is still huge from a viewer point of view. League of Legends is growing again in the UK. And then there's the obvious current titles, and we're trying to watch where they go from an esports point of view. Your likes of Fortnite, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, they've got emerging esports scene, so we're keeping an eye on those to see where they go in the future as well.
Have you seen a spurt in interest since the advent of games like Fortnite particularly? Because I've personally noticed, playing quite a lot of games myself, there seemed to be, before Fortnite, where you had a lot of StarCraft 2, Rocket League even was quite big, stuff like that. But then you've sort of got post-Fortnite where you've got like really quite young kids, 12, 13, 14, really interested in this kind of thing now. Have you noticed a resurgence almost?
I think games like Fortnite have made esports a little bit more mainstream. I'd say FIFA is having a similar effect as well. It's getting more eyes onto esports in general, and then once people are watching things like Twitch for their favourite Fortnite players, they're then being exposed to other games that are perhaps more competitive from an esports perspective. Worldwide, the biggest prize pool in 2018 was $25.5 million for a Dota 2 tournament hosted out in Canada. Even in the UK, there were 2 tournaments that took place in the UK last year that each had $1 million prize pool, one for Counter-Strike, one for Dota 2 in London and Birmingham. So, yes, the esports as a career, as a player, is an option, but there are loads of other career options as well that people don't necessarily realise, from commentators at esports, stage hosts, backstage staff, even people who are interested in gaming but who perhaps want to pursue careers in finance and marketing. All of those traditional jobs exist at esports as well for people looking for careers.
John Winkle there, who's the managing director of Epic.LAN. So with thousands of viewers on platforms like Twitch watching players go head-to-head, you need a commentator to explain what's going on, and in gaming they're known as casters. So I caught up with Lorinda, who's a professional Hearthstone commentator, one of my favourite online card games that I watch a lot of on Twitch. It's based on the characters from World of Warcraft. You may have played it before. We also did the interview over Skype, as a lot of casters will essentially commentate on games from their home. So this is the kind of quality that you're used to hearing if you watch a lot of Twitch stuff. So where did it start off for Lorinda?
So as a kid, I used to be pretty good at computer games, but obviously at my age, I'm an old guy, I'm late 40s. That was in amusement arcades with people gathering around. So you'd sort of try and get like 12 people to watch you, and that would be really exciting. And then I took a bit of an exodus from gaming for quite a few years while I was doing other things in my life. And about 6 or 7 years ago, just got back into it, watching various eSports on Twitch, which is the major platform still.
Yeah.
And I just decided, look, I want to do this. I've always liked like wrestling and stuff like that. I felt that the atmosphere was very similar with all the entertainment being provided. And obviously I'm not going to be wrestling at my age. So I thought, well, let's get into games again. And I just decided to give it a stream one day to see how that went. And I had 1 viewer. Then 6 months later, I had 10 viewers. And I always treated it as if I had 1 million viewers, just as practice.
Yeah.
And yeah, then someone called Callum Leslie, UK journalist, set up casting Chinese Hearthstone. It was no money in it, but it was good practice. Got to cast with some good casters. And then eventually got a call up saying, hey, do you fancy casting our sort of slightly bigger event for a few dollars? And it just built from there.
When you kind of made that leap from just a few people watching, when did it start to feel kind of real? Like, hang on a second, there's quite a lot of people watching here. When was that kind of first moment where you thought, there is actually like 1 million people watching?
I think there was a day that my first international viewer was a big deal. It wasn't just a friend who was watching to help me out or something. Yeah. I still remember him dropping by. I'm like, oh my goodness, somebody from America is watching my stream. This is ridiculous. But I got a host from one of the best arena streamers called Shady Bunny, and he hosted me for 300 or 400 viewers. And I was just about to go to bed. And I'm like, well, no sleep for me tonight. And the rush was sensational. It's like, oh my goodness, I've got 300 viewers. But it started to sink when I started getting 30 or 40 regulars that I recognised who are coming back for more. And that's when you start thinking, okay, this is going somewhere.
And I suppose you're most kind of well known nowadays as a caster of Hearthstone. I mean, actually, that's where I came across you in the first instance anyway, because I'm just a big fan of the game myself. What is it about Hearthstone that you think has that kind of quite a general appeal? Because I know that lots of kids play it, but also, people who should know better, like me, and adults, we love watching it. So what is it about that as a game that you think is so popular?
In terms of being the most watchable card game, it is just very watchable. You can see what sort of health total each player's on. When that goes to 0, that player loses. And even if you don't know what's going on, you can see the numbers on the screen in pretty big, clear font, and the health totals going down. And like pretty animations, good sound effects. So even if you don't understand it, you still get a feeling of, okay, that thing does 8 damage and that guy's on 8 health. He's going to die. He's got to do something.
Yeah.
And I think compared to other card games where a lot of the text on the cards is like 6 lines long, some of those games are very good games. I definitely don't want to knock other games in my genre because everyone should help each other. But Hearthstone just has that sort of cartoony appeal with a very deep game behind it.
And in terms of esports in general, it's something that I think the mainstream is now becoming aware of. I know it's been growing for years and years. But how do you see the scene now? Because do you see it as we've kind of peaked, or do you think there's still a lot more esports action to be had?
I'm not just saying this because it's my job, because by the time this matters, it probably won't be my job anymore. But I do feel that esports is the future of competitive stuff.
Yeah.
I think eventually it will override. I mean, you're never going to lose the feeling of wanting to kick a ball into a net or hit a ball with a stick as far as you can. But I do feel that this will slowly but surely overtake regular sports in the next sort of 30 or 40 years. It's just so popular with people under 25. And you can do it from your own home. If it's cold and blustery outside, you can still load up whatever game you love and try and beat people at it.
Thanks to Lorinda for the insight into what it takes to become a professional caster.
Stop kidding around. Snake?
Let's move on to some new releases then and review some games that have been out fairly recently. I mean, I tell you what, Georgia, why don't you start and tell me what you've gone for? Because again, and this is what I love, it's a game that I've never heard of before.
So I think I mentioned last time how much I love co-op games, and I got this one for my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, it was a long time ago, but thank you very much.
Still partying.
yeah, still going till the next one.
Weird.
But my one of my best friends, we always play games together, so he got it for me. I think as a present for himself, basically, so he'd get to play it too.
Classic.
But the idea is you're two men in prison. Each of you chooses a character, and you basically have to, as the name suggests, get out of the prison.
So it's called A Way Out.
What's your plan?
Stay the hell away from me, okay?
It's quite fun because, one of you will do one thing while the other one does something else. So it's kind of like a puzzle, and then every now and then the excrement hits the fan, as it were, and you have a bit of an action sequence.
I like that you had to think about what word shall I not say there.
Yes, I've been very careful.
I could hear it. So I have actually heard of this. You've reminded me because of your description now. So this game itself, it's pure co-op. You can't play single player, or can you?
Yeah, pure co-op, so you have to have at least one friend. It starts off great fun. It's very sort of new. It feels like a new thing. Like one of you sort of lying in the hospital bed and the other one's trying to sneak off and get a key, and you have to sort of cause a distraction all the while staying in your hospital bed, sort of thing. So it's quite fun, like seeing the other person sneak around while you're trying to sort of help them out, and that is really, really fun. But it's one of those games that really railroads you. You kind of have to do exactly what they're thinking of. There's not much room for creativity. And they kind of went very much like down the line of they want it to be like a film. So the players have very strong characters. So again, you don't really get that feeling of like immersion that you're in there playing it. You feel like you're kind of watching a film, and every now and then you're doing stuff. So there were lots of like really nice touches, but all in all, it was like a bit easy, a bit short, and there were a few bits that felt like the characters were doing stuff you didn't want them to do, and that's quite frustrating when you're playing a game, I feel. But worth a go. Maybe you want to rent.
So A Way Out, then, it's available on... Well, what did you play? On PlayStation, presumably?
I played it on PlayStation, yes.
Yeah, you love a PlayStation, don't you?
Oh, I love it.
It's available on Xbox as well, Microsoft Windows. What would you give it out of 10 to give it a rating?
Oh, maybe 6.
Not bad at all. Let's go for what I have been playing. I would like to say a lot of, because this was a game I was unbelievably excited for. It's the next and the latest in the series of Fallout games. It's called Fallout 76, which, as we said earlier, is online only. I mean, I think I slightly spoiled this review by saying that it's a terrible game. It's possibly the worst and most expensive game I've bought. In terms of, well,
that bad?
The thing is, you spend, 50, 60 quid, and I pre-ordered it so I could have access to the beta, which I've never done before. I'm not a beta player, I like to play final versions of games.
You're an alpha, Chris.
I'm an alpha, exactly. I'm pre-build. I don't even know what that means. But anyway, so I got it in the beta. It didn't work at all. I could not log in to this onto any of the servers, except for on the final day of the beta. I managed to get in. And what you do is you walk around in true Fallout style, except that there are no characters to talk to apart from other online characters. So,
and just stepping back, what's the Fallout style for...
So the Fallout style is basically a first-person shooter, post-apocalyptic. There's been a nuclear explosion, but some people are lucky enough to be in underground bunkers. Hooray, they made the right life choice. So, they stay in the underground bunker. Sometimes they go into stasis and wait 100 years or whatever. Then they come out of the lift, and there's always this moment in every Fallout game where you get out into the great outdoors, and the light the blinding light starts to seep away, and you can suddenly see into the distance, and it's always an incredible moment in the games. But usually you've talked to a few human characters along the way, or you go and meet your first person in a village. There's none of that in this game at all. It's online only.
Years after our great nation began, we gathered together to honor the completion of Vault 76. This sprawling underground shelter may have been engineered by Vault Tech, but it was built by you. So that if the bombs do come, our way of life will endure.
You talk to computer consoles and they give you missions. And those missions in the early days are some of the most boring missions I've ever had. Like, go and find some wood. So you go and find some wood and they go, hooray, go and build a camp. So you go and build a camp. Hooray, go and kill a zombie. But it was so boring. And I really didn't like it at all. I was so disappointed. And then they've released patches and they've tried to make it better. And, there's all these missions in the high end game. I'm never going to get that far because it's boring. It's just a boring game, sadly. Definitely not worth the money for me. Is it wrong to give a game 0 out of 10? That feels...
Oh, I love it. Go for it.
Okay, I'm just going to go hard in here. 0 out of 10. Don't waste your money. But on the plus side, I went back to playing Fallout 4, which is amazing. Go and get Fallout 4. Much better than people say. And if you finally want to find anything that's actually good on the Xbox One X, which I've managed to do, you can get a re-downloaded, recut version of Fallout New Vegas, which is very, very tasty to play. So I recommend that, but Fallout 76, steer well clear.
Question.
Go.
What happened between Fallout 4 and Fallout 76? Why are there so many missing games?
I couldn't tell you. But hopefully, when they do eventually make them and fill in the gaps, some of them will be better than this one. So, yeah, I think they just need a few more goes.
Stop kidding around. Snake?
Time for Retro Revival. We're going to review Crash. Finally, it's come. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. Something that Georgia and I have been excited for a lot. I have to confess to you as well that I never played the original Crash series. So for me, this was kind of a first. Like, I'd seen it, but I've never actually engaged in the game. And it was quite difficult control-wise. So maybe George's opinion might be slightly better, because I think you played the original a bit more than I did.
Yeah, so I'm coming at this with full, nostalgia, rose-tinted glasses, and you've got a sort of cool, collected logic opinion of whether it's actually a good game or not.
Yeah, I want to hear your insight first, because I think it's kind of more interesting than mine.
Oh, I just loved it.
I'm so glad you said that.
Just hearing the theme songs again. The
Ooga booga. That's what you have to say. I'm learning, you see. I'm learning.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I didn't have the same problem with controls I had with Spyro. Maybe because it's a simpler game. You're just kind of running in a line. Everything just was lovely, and I think I'm a hypocrite because last time I'm like, oh, well, they just made the same game again and that's bad. But this time I'm like, nah, it's pretty good. I'm happy with that.
Make the same game.
Make it again. My one criticism is that every single time you play it, they make you watch the same 10-minute animation, maybe not 10 minutes.
Yeah, but it feels like, it feels
like
it,
where they show you that they've made Crash Bandicoot, into the modern graphics. And it's like, well done, but let me go and eat the Wumpa fruit now. Come on.
I know you made it good. That's why I bought it.
Yeah, shut up and let me play. What did you think?
Well, I have to say that my fiance is a huge fan of the series and played the originals and really loves it. And she hasn't stopped playing it. She's been playing it for like a couple of months now. And just thinks it's the best thing ever. So clearly for the fans, it's really, really good. I actually find it quite a difficult game, having not played any of the originals at all. But it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I like actually finally kind of getting that childhood moment of jumping and collecting all the things. I still can't get the hang of running towards the camera. That's one of the things that...
Is that the boulder level? Yeah. The infamous boulder level.
Classic boulder level. I just couldn't get the hang of that. But it was a lot of fun. If you like the originals, it's a must-buy. If you didn't, it might not be worth 100% of the money. But I'd say go for it. What do you reckon, Georgia?
Yeah, absolutely. And you get 3 games with it again, so it's pretty good value, I guess. If you're a nostalgic idiot like me, 100% you'll love it.
Well, thanks for listening to episode 2 of the Naked Gaming Podcast. We're back for episode 3 next month. Hopefully I'll have managed to actually play through all of Kingdom Hearts 1, 2 and 3, which I was trying to do for this month. But it's just a long, long experience. But next time, hopefully we'll be doing that. In the meantime, well, you know what to do.
Prepare for the most convoluted plot in gaming history, Chris. My sympathies. In the meantime, if there's a game you'd like us to look at, you can get in touch with us. You can email gaming@nakedscientist.com.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.